Hello everyone and welcome back to another instalment of the Warwick F1 Show. It has been over 3 months that we have been waiting since the 2024 season closed in Abu Dhabi, but finally the wait is over and we are kicking things off with what a race, the Australian Grand Prix back in Melbourne. What an incredible racetrack that we're going back to start off what is hopefully going to be an incredible season. In this episode, we're going to be going over all of the juicy details of some of the changes that have been done to the circuit, some potential chance of rain that we might be expecting on the Sunday, and also what we can expect from all of our drivers on Sunday. I'm your host, Callum, and once again, I can't be doing this alone, so we are joined once again by our Society President, Katch, and by returning guest, Anwar. Thank you very much both for joining me. So we'll go straight into, I think, the drivers and what we can expect from those and some particular drivers that we're going to be looking out for, especially after looking at our season preview and our winter testing. Of course, if you want to hear what we thought about for those episodes, then you can go back and check that episode out after this one. But we're going to be talking specifically for Australia and it being the first race of the season. And the first driver I want to talk about is Lando Norris, because this season for me sees a huge shift in where he is standing in the pecking order, because last season I think it was very unexpected, especially when it came to round 6 or around the midpoint of the season where he actually was a championship contender. Certainly I don't think McLaren ever anticipated that they were going to be anywhere near fighting Red Bull for both championships when it came to the 2024 season. But now McLaren are established as the fastest team, I think, on the grid. Their testing looked better than anyone back in Bahrain. And things are different now because Norris is one of the favourites. And so we're kind of losing excuses for him if he is making any sort of mistakes. And we're really going to see the first signs of whether he's been able to smooth those out over the winter to see if he really can challenge for this Drivers' Championship.
I think this is a massive test. This is by far and away his best opportunity of winning a championship. And he's in a situation where he's very lucky to have not every driver has an opportunity to win it again, particularly the next season after.
Yeah.
So he's got to make the most out of this opportunity because you don't know whether this will come about again next season. Going to new regulations, the whole pecking order can switch. So these first few races will be a real test of his mettle to see, does he really have the minerals for it? Because if he doesn't, chances are, there's a good chance he won't have another opportunity again.
Katch, do you think that Norris is needing to potentially win this race when it comes to how he wants to start off his season? Obviously, he'll love to have a win, but he needs to surely set a mark against other drivers, against other teams, that he is a serious contender for this championship.
I completely understand that, but I do disagree. I think Norris needs to beat his teammate and outpace Piastri. I think this has historically been, in the recent years, has been a Ferrari circuit. McLaren is going... The statement for me is Japan in round 3. If Norris can't win Japan, he can't win the championship. Japan is by far his best chance at putting that statement. It's just in these first few races, he needs to beat Piastri and show McLaren to prioritise him. No matter whether that's getting second or third, or obviously winning the race would be great. But every team is here to make a statement. Every team is going to be there to show their best cards. So I don't expect anyone to back down. And for me, sure, I can see him getting top 3 by far. But even if he doesn't win this, it doesn't mean his championship over. I
think for... All right, yes, we are going to be talking a lot about kind of the effects on the championship, and it's only a single race and everything can change. But I do think that this is quite important for Norris, and because confidence is such a big thing for the top athletes in any sport. And I think if Norris can kick this off with a win and really get his confidence going off the bat, then this will be really great for him. Do you think? I also,
what I will say, I don't like in a weird way. I kind of agree in the sense of the actual result matters a little bit less than the actual performance. And what I mean by that is if he has a race like Singapore last year where he made a bit of a hash of winning it, let's be honest. He looked like he was going to bin it a couple of times. That's not going to do any... Even if he does win, that's not going to do a lot of good for his confidence. So I think he needs a smooth weekend and probably... in an ideal world, he has a smooth performance and a smooth result. But if he does have a slow start or loses positions because of a battle, that's also going to be a bit of a sign of, okay, there's a little bit of worry here. I'm a bit concerned. So he needs to try and avoid those type of mistakes.
Yeah, I think mistakes is a big one. That's what I was going to come on to. Is I think he really needs to show that he can dominate consistently, like he did maybe in Zandvoort, for example, last year. Because I think not that he was maybe the absolute favourite to win last year. I think as much as the hype was going on, it was still Verstappen's championship to lose, but very much so. But also he did make a lot of mistakes last year. We do know this, and so I think it'll be a good idea for him to have, as you mentioned, a very smooth weekend, mistake free, and just put in a very solid performance. Maybe not necessarily if he even wins the race. We've already mentioned that this is a very Ferrari-dominated circuit, and obviously one of the drivers who everyone is going to be looking out for is Lewis Hamilton. His first proper race and his first test. Obviously for everyone it's the first showing in qualifying of the true pace of the cars, but also for Hamilton it's how he's able to adapt to that Ferrari car. He's so far looked very confident in the car, and he's, I think, visually and through his mannerism, he's looked a lot more confident and happy being with Ferrari compared to where he was at Mercedes. But the worry is, I think, is that lots of people are going to be very quick to judge from this performance. Now, I'm not saying, and we were saying this before the recording started, by no means should a driver be judged completely off of this weekend. It could be a fluke weekend, and after this weekend they could completely take off. But unfortunately, because there's been so much hype around Hamilton and this 2025 performance, people are immediately going to start making headlines, whatever the performance. It's if he has a really good performance, wins the race, get on the podium, it's going to be how much can he be a title contender. If he maybe drops back slightly at the start and doesn't get some good points, it'll be, is he really going to suit this Ferrari car? And so I think Hamilton definitely will be looking for a good performance. Do you think that he'll be feeling the pressure as a 7-time world champion?
No chance. No way. He's used to it. He's got star power, star name, star power, star fame. He's used to this type of attention. That being said, I think it is pretty important that he starts off well. I think if he's convincingly beaten by Leclerc this weekend, because of that star power and that name, there's going to be a lot of attention, like you said. So it's a poison chalice in some way. He has to perform, I guess, but I don't think the time that was afforded to Danny Rick of making excuses for his performance is going to be given to Hamilton. Put it that way.
Oh, absolutely not. But I think for Hamilton more so, Katch mentioned that Norris just has to beat his teammate Oscar Piastri. I think maybe for Hamilton, I think that's more so the case, because with Norris, the difference with Norris is that he was clearly a title contender and he's clearly one of the favourites for this season. Whereas Hamilton, I think the question that more people are going to be asking is how well can he adapt to the car? And that's going to be shown when in comparison to his teammate, Charles Leclerc. Katch, do you think that Hamilton actually has to beat Leclerc for it to be considered a good performance? Because we know how strong Leclerc can be in that car, but I don't know, is this the type of standards which Ferrari and Hamilton himself is going to be putting upon himself for his Ferrari career ultimately?
I definitely think Lewis will want to beat Leclerc. There's going to be a big rivalry between them, and it's not going to get heated at the start of this season. In the first half, I don't see it. But let's say later in the season, it will definitely get more heated. It has to be a success to beat Leclerc. He has to at least be like, okay, I'm going to make a statement here and put my foot down.
But is that what should be expected of him?
That's what everyone is expecting of him. That's what he expects of himself. I don't believe that's what should be. I think first race of the season is, because it's such a long season nowadays, it's 24 races. Like, you've got to remember, never been to Australia since 2019 as a first race. Hamilton always performs really well there, so for his own expectation, he expects to win it. But it doesn't mean that he should be expected to win it.
I think definitely I'm gonna try at least and not judge Hamilton as his entire pace in the car until we've seen him for a few races, because over the next few races not only have we got a chance to see him adapt to the Ferrari car, but we've got to see the Ferrari car at a range of circuits, because as we know, Melbourne is a very specific circuit. It's a street circuit, a lot of tight, fast corners, and so it might not be something that's suited to the Ferrari car, it might not be something that's suited to Hamilton's driving style, so we don't know that completely yet. Another team to be looking out for, of course, is Red Bull. And in testing, they didn't perhaps have the best time in the world. They certainly seemed to be behind McLaren and perhaps had not gone as far forward as they would have hoped compared to their competitors.
As far forward, they've gone backwards.
But possibly even backwards, yes, over the winter, which is a big concern for them. And so I think they are going to be very much concerned this weekend that they've ironed out some of those issues with the car. Are they going to still be going for first place after their testing and what they've seen around them from their competitors?
Are you asking whether a team that is the current Drivers' Champion and was Constructors' Champion is going to be going for first place? Because
okay, obviously everyone's going for first place.
They're obviously going to be going for first place. Whether they can achieve it, absolutely not.
Can they achieve it, do you think?
They need Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren all to crash. Like, I really don't expect them to see it. Seriously, I don't.
Even with Verstappen?
I don't expect to see Verstappen top three, like, at all.
Top three?
I don't expect to see him top three.
No.
Right, you're doing a massive disservice to his quality of a driver here.
He's such a quality driver, but I just think the Red Bull has issues. The Red Bull has mistakes. Also, the Red Bull's never been that great at the start of a season. They really haven't been good start.
You're talking about Max
last
Verstappen,
season they were comfortably ahead of everyone else.
Okay, sure. Last season I forgot that, but for the seasons before, I really don't expect them to be doing.
My belief is that Red Bull could be solidly the fourth fastest team, but just having Verstappen at the wheel could get them on the podium, in my view. I don't think he's necessarily going to win the race, and my predictions that we're going to do later reflect that, but surely you've got to have Verstappen in some sort of contention for the podium at least. I don't think I should say I don't think Verstappen is on the podium in my predictions, but I still think he's
spoiling your predictions.
It's only one driver, okay, but I think he should still be in contention. Surely,
a car in his hands should be in the discussion at least. I can't believe you've kind of that's completely not an option for you. I also don't know how much I want to believe the idea that they are the fourth fastest car here. I actually don't think we know, because bearing in mind testing's done on one circuit and we've seen cars come on that circuit and not perform and come back to it on other tracks. So Albert Park is a completely different circuit to Bahrain, so just because Red Bull struggled there, and even then it's testing, how much do we really want to take from that?
Yeah, and also they've had quite a bit of time, I think, to try and address some of the issues that they saw in testing. Yeah. Maybe they didn't get as many high-speed runs or a variety of runs as they would have hoped for, but they've certainly had a lot of time to review that. And we know it's Red Bull. They are going to make huge leaps and bounds, I think, compared to other teams in terms of the data they have and the performance they have in testing compared to the first race of the season, I think.
Yeah, of course we can't take much from testing, and I'm like number one advocate of that. But also, like, this is the hardest race to predict. We've got to remember we have literally zero idea what is going on.
Which is why it's even more crazy that he's not in the discussion.
Yeah, but it could be crazy that you guys are putting him in the discussion a few races in. We have no idea at this point.
Verstappen has been one of the most, for the last few years, he's been one of the most predictable elements in what is known as a unpredictable sport. And so I think whatever happens, if Verstappen is not up there, it will be down to the car. And it will be down to the car being a lot worse than expected, or maybe having reliability issues or something like that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying Verstappen. Verstappen is still top 5 driver of all time.
Oh, right. Why are we even having this discussion
then? Verstappen is still top 5 driver of all time. He's probably still, like, the best on the grid currently, like, form-wise. But I just don't think that Red Bull is going to be there. That's what I'm saying. I don't have faith in the Red Bull car.
But that's the thing. I think it's obviously being predicted that it's going to be that far back that even Verstappen can't. So interesting. So you think that's a huge gulf, I think, compared to the Mercedes?
Yep, I think the Mercedes might be.
Do you think Kimi Antonelli is beating Verstappen?
No. No, come on. Do you think that's illegal? No. I can see Russell will beat Verstappen, but not Antonelli. If Antonelli gets top 10, I'll be happy for him.
Whoa, no, right, come on.
No, I don't know.
In his car,
I'm expecting chaos.
He needs to be.
I'm expecting a chaotic race.
Yeah,
the rookies are going to suffer.
Where do you think? Complete off-topic discussion. Where do you think Antonelli would classify as a good first race?
If he finishes 6th, that's a good performance for him.
Yeah, that's a great performance for him.
No, but I don't think it's a great performance, and it'll make a little bit of sense later. But I think people aren't giving Mercedes the credit they deserve.
But we're talking about someone who is he 17 years old still?
18.
There's a reason why he's in that
who's
car.
been like short fast track, to Mercedes pretty much, and he's still such an inexperienced driver compared to people around him.
Yeah,
I think it shouldn't be determined on the position that he finishes. Rather, it should just be looking at his race overall and seeing, does he show signs that he can build on the pace and show some consistency for the future, rather than picking any one particular position that's saying, right, if he gets above this, it's good performance.
The thing is, if he's heralded as such a talent, I think it wouldn't be. It's not a harsh expectation to have. He should be there off the bat. He should be there or thereabouts off the bat. I think there's a reason why Toto's picked him, because it was very clear that he really wanted him in that seat. And I think he's the type of driver who will have his moments, but I think he's also someone who's very quick to adapt. We saw that in F2. He was finishing second in his first season, and only season is pretty good. I can see him finishing top 6.
I think, yeah, if he's heralded to be this like incredible talent, I do agree with you. I just don't think he should be heralded to be this great talent. Like, I think he's good. I think he's really good. Next season we'll see that, but I don't think he will hit the ground running this year. Like, be fighting Russell straight off the bat. I really doubt that.
I know. I agree with that. But I'm saying that he can have peaks. He's going to have peaks where he might beat Russell on a weekend.
I think
that's
him
possible.
being heralded as a very big talent should be something that we are taking into account, like mid-season, not in his very first race. Because
I've seen people comparing him to Lewis at this point, like with his
stats. Are you taking the mick?
No, I've genuinely seen some people online being like, "Oh, is Antonelli going to get Lewis's thing?"
This hurts.
I know.
My
It
brain.
hurts me as
Hurts
well.
my
It
brain.
makes no sense. Some people are like hyping this kid up. It makes no sense.
And we know how important experience is in F1, I think, as well. We've seen drivers who we've heralded as such great talent. I'm going to just say Nick de Vries to you, and who we've heralded as like an up-and-coming F1 legend, and they just can't take the pressure of F1 because it's a whole different kettle of fish to any other racing series that we know of. So I think, like a lot of these drivers, we should wait until after the first race. But I think we should judge Antonelli's more his overall performance rather than any particular winning position.
I think
he could be sat here and he could win the race. I don't know. We don't know in this podcast.
I think another thing to consider is he's raced here before.
Yeah, true.
I think that's the whole thing of experience is also having experience on the track as well, as well as the machinery. So you'll see, like, I think Piastri in his first season didn't perform very well on tracks he hadn't raced on before. He's raced here before, so that might stand in good favour for him. So I expect big things from him. I actually think he's going to perform better than people expect, and I think he'll start for this weekend.
Interesting. We, of course, have not only our particular teams, but we have some particular drivers to look out for as it is their home race as the opener for Australia. We, of course, have Oscar Piastri, who is probably the first genuine race-winning contention at Albert Park since Daniel Ricciardo, probably in the Red Bull. But we actually haven't had a single Australian driver on the podium since the race started in, I think, 1985. But of course we have two Australian drivers here, Oscar Piastri and Jack Doohan. And Jack Doohan perhaps not in too much contention of the podium for this race, but certainly Oscar Piastri is one to look out for. Do we think that Piastri has a serious contention of winning the race compared to the likes of Verstappen, like Norris? Because I don't know about you, but I'd love to see any home driver being able to stand up on their podium and make their country proud. And I don't know, do we think that is a serious possibility?
Well, in his car, I think it's an absolute possibility. There's no reason why he shouldn't be in that discussion. It's not a case where he's underperformed significantly compared to Norris. I think he was consistent. He was comfortably beaten last season, but I don't think it was worryingly beaten at all. So he should be there in and around that conversation at least. I don't think he'll win it, but I think he should be. We shouldn't discount it.
I think a podium is likely for Piastri.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that. I think honestly it's a toss-up. Like, it's so hard to guess. But I think he is definitely in the conversation. But yeah, I don't think he's gonna win it.
I don't know. Last episode, for anyone who tuned into our season preview, our guest James thought that Oscar Piastri was going to be the biggest underperformer of the entire season for this year. I'm not sure it's going to be quite that, but we'll have to wait and find out.
There are other candidates for that.
There are plenty of other candidates, I'm sure. a bit more information before we go into our predictions. So there's actually a 64% chance of rain on Sunday for
Let's go.
Albert Park.
So it's worth waking up at 4 a.m. for.
Maybe. I personally don't want... I'm going to say I don't quite want a wet race yet because I'd like to actually find out.
I agree with this.
I'd like to actually find out the pace of the cars.
I would also like drivers not to be crashing out every second.
No,
it's
I don't.
entertaining.
No. I think Albert Park is going to be entertaining enough to see finally like what's the pace of the cars, what are the drivers like without the rain. If the rain can come again another day as the rhyme goes, and we have that for a later race. But
get that in China. China's great wet races.
But unfortunately, I do not control the weather, so we'll have to see about that.
Do you not? That's crazy.
No, I don't. But then also, you know me. No. So we have also some changes to the circuit to report. So obviously we had some fairly severe crashes last time around in 2024, the most notable being George Russell spinning off on the final lap of the Grand Prix and ending up right in the middle of the circuit at risk of being hit by the drivers. So luckily the FIA have modified the circuit since last year to avoid this happening, as well as a crash from Alex Albon, I think, in practice, at a similar kind of area in turn 6 and 7. So the turn 6 barriers have been readjusted to avoid the car bouncing off into the middle of the circuit and instead into the runoff areas, and also things like extending the gravel trap, changing the type of curb, essentially just measures to make the cars slower and more controlled through that area whilst also maintaining the characteristic of the curve of the turn, because it's such an entertaining corner and it's one of the best parts of the circuit, and I think that was something that they were definitely considering when changing it, as they wanted to keep how exciting it was, as it's one of the best parts of the track. But it's very good, obviously, that they have done those adjustments, as even though we like racing, we want the drivers to be safe, obviously. We'll go into predictions now, because we have a new format which we're going to be running for the predictions this season. So once again, we're going to be predicting our top 5 drivers. So we're going to have 3 points for a driver that we've predicted in the correct place. We're going to get 1 point if we are one position off. So say, for example, Norris were to finish second, I say Norris was to finish second and he finishes third. That would be 1 point for me. We're also going to predict our pole position driver. We're going to predict a driver that we think might DNF throughout the race. And we're also going to make one wild prediction, which is essentially like our 2 or 3 point prediction last season, where we're going to just go wild, and anything that we want to predict, we can predict for the race weekend.
And also, for those that are familiar with the previous format, people can predict the same driver to come first. We've scrapped that because that was introduced in the Verstappen dominance, and since we don't know who's actually going to win this time, anyone can predict.
Yes, it's a lot more interesting. So if we want two drivers the same for first place, then that's fine, because it is a lot more. I'm thankful to say it's a lot harder to predict first place than it was a couple of years ago. So yeah, we're going to have 3 points as well for the pole position, 3 points for the driver that DNFs, and 5 points for our wild predictions. So that's a maximum of 26 points per weekend. So, Anwar, I shall let you kick this off first. So if you wanted to just run through your top 5 drivers, who have you gone for?
Should we start with pole first?
Oh yes, actually that's a good idea, because it's pole is going to come first in the...
Right, so I have picked George Russell to be on pole.
Wow, I was not expecting that.
He
is Mr. Saturday, to be fair. I didn't think that we were going to go for a Mercedes, but fair enough. Go for it. Why George Russell?
I think this Merc car, now that Lewis is gone, I think it's twisted fate. And this car is going to be pretty good. He's been slaving it away in a car that's been really bad, and now I think this car is going to be somewhat drivable for Antonelli and Russell. And I think Russell's season last year was really good, and if he carries that momentum, I can absolutely see this happening.
I'm definitely excited to see what he is capable of now that he's in the main driver position, a bit like what Verstappen was like when, obviously, before he was the second driver to Ricciardo, and then when Gasly came in, he had to really step up and show some leadership, and it's a similar position now for George Russell, especially now that he has such a young driver next to him in the garage in Kimi Antonelli. So, yeah.
Dare I
I'd
say,
really like to see
dark horse for the championship.
Okay, I don't think Russell really hasn't been talked about that much. It's mainly been the Ferraris and the McLarens, and obviously Verstappen. Sorry. So who knows? Maybe I would definitely like to see him win a couple more races. I'm a big George Russell fan, and so I would not object to that at all. Do you want to go through your top 5 as well?
Right. So I am going to say that Norris wins. Surprise, surprise. I know Katch is happy about that. I'm going to say Russell finishes second, Verstappen third, Piastri fourth, Leclerc fifth.
Interesting. What's your objection?
Why is that provoked that reaction?
A Ferrari fifth and that's it?
Correct.
Crazy.
Wow, so you think they're going to crash and burn?
I don't think they're crashing and burning. I just think that the two McLarens are quicker. I think Verstappen is capable of of hauling that car on his back. And I think Russell's going to perform this season, so I think...
Okay, so let's say your predictions happen,
Yep.
and there was no crashes and it's on pace.
Yep.
Count Ferrari out for the constructors. Straight off the bat.
Yeah, who says I haven't done that?
That's fair enough, but I'm just saying, I don't know what your predictions are for the constructors are, but if Ferrari could only come fifth in Albert Park, McLaren's got this in the bag, give them the title. No way. That's mad.
Oh, I'm going to clip that and come back to that in his time.
Do that, please. Jesus.
Interesting. Very bold indeed. So
I just don't have a look. I look at Ferrari's performance in testing and think, I don't know. I don't know. I know they were top of the timesheets quite a bit, but I do think they have a history of going for these lower fuel runs to do this, and so I'm putting quite a bit of stock in Mercedes' car. I'm putting a bit of stock in Verstappen's performance, which is why he's so far low.
To be fair, I think the impression that a lot of people got from testing was that Ferrari were closer to maybe Mercedes than to McLaren.
Yeah, that's what
they were still
I
in that
was
second
hearing.
position, and yeah, I mean, maybe a bit more up. I think I've maybe gone a bit more up as purely from the fact that we know that Ferrari are good at this circuit, but yeah, maybe it's not going to be as good as everyone is expecting for Ferrari. Okay, I will go next. So for pole position, I have gone Lando Norris. I do think he's going to have a very good weekend. I think I'm hoping maybe slightly hopeful, but I do think because he is a serious contender for the championship. He's had a good winter break, and McLaren are the favourites, and I think do have the fastest car going into Melbourne, and so he's definitely capable of that. And then I think he is going to convert that into a win, and he's going to go first place as well. Leclerc second. I do think Ferrari are going to be very good, and I do expect Leclerc to be the front runner of the two Ferrari drivers just purely because of his experience in the car. But I don't think he's going to quite get to Norris and get the win for Ferrari. I'm going to go Piastri in third. I'm hopeful that he does perform well, but also I think especially because it's his home race, I think he can put in a very good performance. Verstappen fourth. So as I said, Red Bull in contention for a podium, but maybe just missing out. And then Hamilton in fifth. So it feels, now that I think about it, it feels very wrong to not include a Mercedes in there as well. But the trouble is we've only got 5 spaces and we've got essentially seven drivers for those places.
You can't tell Liam Lawson, crazy.
I don't think he's going to be great yet.
Yeah, no,
maybe a bit later on, but certainly I think later on this season we'll have 8 drivers to pick for 5 places. It's so difficult.
I think that car's also a bit of a difficult one to drive as well, particularly as a rookie. It's something that, if we're looking at last season, Verstappen struggled with that car towards the end of the year. I think if they're going to continue on that trend of having difficult cars to drive, this won't be a great car to begin with.
We've seen a lot of drivers recently coming out who have been at Red Bull. I'm thinking Alex Albon, who have come out and said that the car is difficult to drive and unlike cars that they've driven previously, probably because it's set up for Verstappen's driving style. So yeah, I think it might take a few races for Lawson to adjust, and that's why I haven't really mentioned him in this episode, because I think he's one of the drivers especially that we should wait a few races before we properly start to judge how his season's going to go. But yes, I would say so. And Katch, your pole position and top 5, please.
So I've made a last minute change. I'm also going Norris for pole. I think, he's on good form. He got back my man somehow. My top 5 is Leclerc first.
Wow,
Because
I was not expecting that.
It's a Ferrari
Ladies and gentlemen
track.
at home, Katch has not picked Norris for first place.
Yeah,
you heard it here.
Pigs can fly.
maybe I'll live to regret that, but I just think it's a Ferrari track. I really, really think that if McLaren win this, I'm going to be so gassed, but it'll be a surprise.
Even if Ferrari haven't gone on to win the championship and have not had the best car, Ferrari have performed well here. So I can fully see that happening.
Well here, hence why he is the top driver in Ferrari at the moment. Lewis needs a couple of races to adapt, but he's still going to be hitting ground running. But yeah, Leclerc I can see taking this win. It's on it.
And the rest of your top 5?
Norris second. So predictable, yes. Norris bottom pole, but like it's a Ferrari track.
Surprise, surprise.
Back to the old days.
Yeah, back to the old days. Hamilton third.
Okay.
So 2 Ferraris in my top 3. Piastri fourth, so good home race, and Russell fifth. So I've not
no Verstappen.
Not got Verstappen because I don't trust that Red Bull, and I think it's safe to have a Mercedes there.
I'm very interested to see how this turns out.
I'm interested to see
what
how
I will
this turns out.
say is I think this season is looking tight. Where all the news that we're hearing from all the noise basically coming out of the rest of the paddock is this is going to be a close season. So it makes sense as to why we've got so much variation in these top 5.
It's going to be really exciting, I think, definitely. So Anwar, do you want to continue? So we've got driver that DNFs and our wild prediction to go. So Anwar, if you wanted to give us both of those for you.
Right. So I've gone with my DNF being Isaac Hadjar. I think he was a bit he was accident prone in F2. And I think this is the type of Grand Prix where a rookie will crash or have an incident at least. I was torn between him or Tsunoda. But I chose Hadjar.
So you think maybe you think it's going to be a V-carb thing rather than... Because Tsunoda is obviously one of the more experienced drivers on the grid.
He still got involved in his fair share of incidents or...
Oh, that's true. I'm not denying that.
So,
but, okay.
I think I felt safe going for a V-carb, so I chose Hadjar.
We will say as well that we can't pick no driver to DNF, even if that we think that's a possibility. We have to pick some driver. So you've gone for Isaac Hadjar, and your wild prediction as well.
I don't know if this is cope, but I've gone Haas double points.
Ooh, I would love to see that, especially for Behrman as well. I think to come in and get some good performances and good points off the bat.
I think this Haas is very hard to place them because they only did long distance running over the course of testing, which seems like a philosophical idea because they did that last year as well. I think they have been on an upward trajectory under Komatsu, and I think this is something that might continue. I think they've got 2 good drivers. I think Ocon is here. I think he's a great driver. I think he'll definitely perform well over the course of the season. I think Behrman, he might have his ups and downs. I think this might be his up.
Yeah, I do think that Haas have got some very strong potential, especially after some of the performance that they showed last year. I realise that we are saying that so many different teams have potential and there's only 10 spots to fill, but I think I'm hopeful for Haas. For the driver that is going to DNF for me, I've gone with Bortoleto. I would really like to... I'm very hopeful for Bortoleto, but I just don't have any faith in that Sauber car, to be honest, and its reliability, especially for the first race of the season. And my wild prediction, I'm going to go for one we've seen quite a few times last season off the bat, but I'm going to go with 2 red flags during during the qualifying and the race. Okay, to not for the weekend because obviously we see quite a lot of red flags in practice, but for the qualifying and for the race, 2 red flags. Just playing onto the fact that Albert Park we know is very chaotic and it's going to be a tight circuit.
Do we think this is wild enough?
If we're going qualifying and race, sure. If he gets this straight off the bat, then we're making it harsh.
Yes.
Yes, I'll have it for this race.
We'll be lenient for this one.
Okay, all right. And Katch, it's you to go last. What have you gone for your driver that DNFs and for your wild prediction?
So I also went Bortoleto because exact same reasons. You stole my reasons. I don't trust the Sauber.
No.
We did all of these independently, so I had no idea who was going to choose Bortoleto as well. But yeah, I think he'll do okay. But yeah, something will go wrong with that car. It'll be like Piastri's first race was. It'll be like a technical failure. It won't be on him at all. And wild prediction is both cars from the same constructor DNF. So let's say both Sauber's DNF, or both Haas's DNF, or both Aston's.
Do you have any particular idea of what team it might be?
It'll probably be Sauber, I don't know. But no, that's not part of my...
The Sauber's just slow.
That's not
it's
part
just
of
slow.
my prediction. My prediction is both cars from the same constructor DNF. I'm not saying which team
No one
that is.
has any
I'm surprised no
spin,
one's
so-
gone for an Aston Martin here.
What, for DNFing?
I
They
think
weren't very reliable. They did the least laps of anyone in
Well,
Japan.
yeah,
I think
still
Aston Martin
technically-
are going to be really bad.
I've still,
Yeah, I think they-
I've still technically gone for Aston Martin here.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Both
true.
of them
No,
from the
yeah,
same
that's
constructor
fair.
DNF.
Yeah.
So loopholing this.
But yes, we're going to have to see how all of those predictions get on. It's going to be a really amazing season. I can't wait for it. F1 is finally back. It's going to be very exciting, and hopefully that excitement will keep me up at 4 a.m., even though I'm going to be very tired for it. But yeah, so make sure to check out how all of our predictions get on as well, because of course we will have a Australia review in the week following the race weekend as well, so make sure to stick around for that. And also, just as a final announcement as well, we should say that the reason that Anwar has come on the podcast today is he has been elected as the new content creation officer for the Warwick F1 Society. So a big congratulations to him, and you can expect to be hearing a lot more of his voice in the on the podcast for the coming year, indeed.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, of course. But that's all from us here in the studio. Thank you very much, Katch and Anwar, for joining me again once today. I've been your host, Callum, and until next time, goodbye.